Hello, good evening, and welcome. And thank you very much for joining me this fine Monday evening. And as you can gather, I'm an audio only, so you don't have to actually see my face beyond the image, and I don't have to use the bandwidth trying to broadcast from the centre of Hicksville, UK. So anyway, hope this one finds you all well. Hope you're all doing good. And thank you very much, as I say, for being with me. Hi, Chris, Ozzy, and Jeff. Good to see you all on the stream. Say hello. I can see you, folks, and as you join, and we got plenty to talk about for the next 30 minutes. Now, I know Monday night is. Hello, Simon, as well. Good to see you. I know Monday night is live stream night for everybody. They're all live streaming tonight. So many people. But hey, there's only one me. So if you enjoy my kind of opinions, then stick with me here, Mr. Garrett, as you are wisely doing. And we shall rattle through the many things that we need to cover off. Interestingly, the stream seems to be working really well over to YouTube. Not sure if it's working so great on Facebook. I think there's a delay thing with Facebook at the moment. So anyway, regardless of that, so hope this finds you all well, as I say. We're going to talk about curfews and lockdowns and all such associated matters. So I hope you'll find that interesting. And Jonathan, very good to see you on the stream. Just say hello to my friend who I met on Saturday up at pro Liberty rally at Stormont. Actually, we're gonna talk about that later on. So hope you'll hang around. Can I urge as many people as possible to share these things as best you're able to do so? And can I also, of course, make point out the importance to follow me on Parler, since you can't get me on Twitter anymore. Follow me on Parler, follow me on YouTube. You can follow me on other platforms like Dailymotion. You can follow me on slug.com. So many platforms. Anyway, let's kick off, shall we? I think there's Simon, as is always the way, Simon says, have you seen the latest in Western Australia, given powers to police to remove clothes if necessary to administer a vaccine? My goodness, Simon, Australia ain't the place to be, but I wonder, is Australia a taste of what lies in store for the rest of us? I wanted to start off, folks. I wanted to share this with you. I've got several of these to show, actually. What do you think of this? Coronavirus, chaos in London as huge crowds gather to party after 10 p.m. And I'm sure you saw some of the videos that accompany this. Massive young numbers of people tumbling out of the pubs, mostly restaurants as well, I guess, as the 10 o'clock curfew kicked in. And, oh, look, in Liverpool, exactly the same. Who would have thought it? The Liverpool mayor says that it's dangerous. Apparently, this 10 p.m. curfew in the pub for the pubs is dangerous. And in Manchester, the mayor calls for urgent review of 10 p.m. closures. So I wondered what you think of all of these matters. What seems to me to be quite evident is that the government are running into massive problems over this 10 p.m. curfew. Now, anybody who ever goes out, and Chris says, looks like the university students are revolting. Chris, how dare you say that about university students? Oh, I see what you mean. You mean they're revolting as in going against the grain. I hope so. The whole point of being a student is to revolt, is to rebel, to be young, to challenge, to oppose. That's what is a big part of those tender years, he says, from his vantage point anyway. So you can see the problems that have occurred. And the thing that I would ask you is, weren't these all entirely predictable? If you basically are saying to pubs, you got to call last orders at 9 o'clock and then shut the door by 10 o'clock, what you're going to get is a lot of people who have been having, having to beat the alcohol into them basically very quickly, and then they're out in the cold air. So what do? Well, they keep on partying. They don't just slink off home. And so, I mean, to a 10-year-old, this was all predictable. However, it turns out that the government didn't really quite anticipate this. Hi, Harry, by the way. Thank you very much for joining me. And the issue is that that restaurants are also affected. So we have the remarkable situation where basically restaurants, sit-in restaurants, if you take, for example, Chinese restaurants, Indian restaurants, these places do a lot of business after 10 o'clock. Well, not anymore, not in England, not anymore. They're probably reduced to one sitting in the case of more formal restaurants. And this is going to, of course, absolutely destroy the restaurant trade, never mind the pub trade. So for me, the issue here is that these measures that the government has introduced and legislated for are going to be very, very destructive for the sectors of the economy most impacted, namely hospitality. And of course, the question which is asked, as I'm just putting it up on the screen here so you can see it, is the coronavirus not more potent at 2201? Well, you're absolutely right, of course. And this is the ludicrous nature of it. For example, if you think, 10 p.m. is the sort of this period whereby the virus suddenly gets lethal, you need to be able to show the science behind it. And of course, as we all know, there is no science behind this. This is an arbitrary period time, 10 p.m., and the government can't justify what it's doing. Lee makes the point, don't you think they did anticipate the crowds, and will it be a stick to beat us with? Well, Lee, that's a very fair comment and a good question. With this government, I just don't know anymore. I don't think many of us know exactly if it's coming or going, because did you see this story that broke? Okay, Kim's here saying he chatted to his landlord tonight. He predicts a further indefinite lockdown. Well, absolutely, Kim. And may I say, I believe a further lockdown is inevitable. They're going to call it something different. They might call it, what's the term there? The new fancy euphemism, a circuit breaker. They might say a 2-week circuit breaker is coming, but that could become a 4-week circuit breaker. And the thing that I guess got a lot of people annoyed was, did you see this? Parliament. The bars inside Parliament were actually leaving themselves open after 10 p.m. But such is the furore been today that the politicians, the bodies in charge at Parliament have had to do a U-turn and say, yes, they will stop alcohol sales at 10 p.m. along with the rest of the country. So did you see that story? What did you make of that one then? One rule for that, what was it? Let them eat cake has now become let them quaff beer. It appears that our good friends at Westminster demonstrating once again just how out of touch they are with you and with me and with the lives of ordinary people. So they've had to do a U-turn, obviously, over that. But it does, to me, demonstrate plenty about the way that they their detachment from ordinary people. Ordinary people want to go out to the pub, want to go out to a restaurant. They don't want 10 p.m. curfews. And I believe that the government is going to be forced into a U-turn on this one. And that U-turn is going to come quite quickly. It doesn't matter that the government, I believe the official government line is they don't plan any change, but they have it under review. What that means is they do plan change and they will make change and they will have to do something about this. But I don't know how they do because they've boxed themselves in. Apparently, as I said, 10 p.m. was just a kind of a figure that somebody somewhere in Whitehall, probably some 25-year-old spad, probably just thought up this time, why not 9 o'clock? Why not 8 o'clock? Listen, if the virus is that bad, why bother having pubs opening at all? If it's so dangerous, why have any of these things? Chris asks the point, has anyone downloaded the NHS app? Well, Chris, not me. And that's, of course, that brings me nicely. Thank you, Chris, for setting that one up. That brings me on to the other issue, and that is the false positive issue. Now, I'm sure those of you who follow me are very informed and understand the way false positives operate when it comes to COVID. So just to summarize, though, in case anyone listening to this in replay isn't sure, any illness, any disease, and any test for any disease will obviously inevitably have some mistakes. There's always human error. And this human error, and technically, so Skylong says, what's a SPAD? Special Parliamentary Advisor. It's an acronym, Skylong, and just to stick it up there so you see, what's a SPAD? A Special Parliamentary Advisor. Someone on about 80 to 90,000 a year, wet behind the ears, little life experience, basically political anoraks who inveigle themselves into the system. Another word for them could be seen as parasites. However, back to what I was saying. So the false positives, you're always going to have those in regard to tests for whatever different diseases. Now, usually after a period of time, the false positive percentage number is known. So it's maybe 1%, maybe it's 2%. It's known. When it comes to COVID, because it's a new illness, the number is less sure. But according to the government's own website, and you can go and look this up, they suggested back in June that the false positive number is about anything between 0.8 of 1% to 4%. That's what they're saying. Now, that could be a little bit wrong. It could be less, but it could be more. So I work on the premise of, well, let's assume then it's maybe 2.5%. That's kind of reasonable, I guess. So here's the deal. When you apply the 2.5% to the total number of cases, that gives you the false positive number. And here, for example, where I'm talking to you from in Northern Ireland, the total number of people tested is 303,000. If you take 303,000 and operate on about 2.5 to 3% as the false positive number, that means that you're going to get about 8,000 to 9,000 false positives. Can you guess how many actual positives the government are saying we've had? Yes, 8,900. So in essence, it looks like virtually all the so-called positive cases may be false positives. And so on that basis, we really have to wonder exactly why is there such hysteria amongst the politicians and the media? Why are they saying we must be locked down again? Why are they locking up students? We're going to talk about students in a moment. Why is all this happening when actually the science and the numbers raise questions that sensible people would actually sit back and think about before enacting further legislation? Does that not appear reasonable to you folks? So we have this real problem over false positives, and it seems that the likes of Matt Hancock and the likes of Grant Shapps and others don't understand how this percentage rule applies. They seem to think that if you have 10,000 people tested and 1,000 of those test positive for COVID-19, and you've got a false positive rate of 1%, that means you've actually only got 999 who have tested positive. No, guys, that's not how you do it. It's 1% of the 10,000. And 1% of 10,000, fingers on your calculators, what's 1% of 10,000? Well, 1%, folks, of 10,000 is obviously 100. I think that's right. So and so the number isn't there for 1,000. It's potentially 100. It's potentially 90. Could be less. Depends on what this on what the false positive percentage is. So in every case, this is something that has to be taken into consideration. However, one of those groups that are now at the cutting edge of the lockdown are students. I'm not sure if any of the people listening to this are students, but some of us at one point were students. In particular, I was a student a long time ago. And I discovered in the press this morning that my university in the students' village, one of the halls is now locked down because someone tested positive. One person tested positive. The entire hall is locked down. Now, again, going back to false positives, if that person who is tested positive is a false positive, this entire lockdown of part of the student village is utterly unnecessary. Not only that, but it means that freshers who have gone up to university, and again, I vaguely remember my first couple of weeks at uni. Hello, Billy Piper's teeth. Nice to see you. It could mean that these students who have just gone up to uni for the first few weeks are being absolutely swindled by the university authorities into going there and then being told, oh, you don't go to your lectures because we're going to do it remotely. Oh, now because somebody somewhere has coughed or sneezed and has got a positive case for COVID-19, you're going to have to stay locked up in your floor or maybe even just in your hall. And this is this is a nightmare scenario for any young student. Now, I do hope, by the way, to come back to you on video with my good friend Rebecca Butler and discuss this and other associated issues. And I know you enjoy listening to Rebecca. Probably next week you'll get to listen to Rebecca's opinions on these matters. But my opinion is very similar to hers, actually, that this is pretty grotesque. What's happening to students? And someone says, was it vague for the first few weeks of uni because of drink or an age issue? Well, the university authorities should have understood exactly what was going to happen. And therein lies the issue. I think they did know exactly what was going to happen. And I think they let the students come up. And now, for example, in Scotland originally, Sturgeon said that students may not be allowed home for Christmas, potentially. And Matt Hancock said he couldn't rule it out either. So you've got this, hello, Ajit, nice to see you on the stream. So I think they're going to backtrack from those, by the way, because I think the revolt would be so massive that it's just not going to be sustainable. And so just as the 10 p.m. curfew is not a sustainable policy, I think trying to tell students they can't go back to their homes is also not a sustainable policy. And this is, Simon says, no lectures, no sports, no social life. Well, Simon, you're quite right. That's exactly what many students are now finding. They all need to leave and hit the unis where it all hurts. Amen, Simon. Completely agree with you on that one. Absolutely. And nice to see Ajit, one of my many good Indian friends, Ajit. And get as many of your friends to follow me on Parler, where you can find me at David Vance. Want to make sure, my good Indian friends, go on to Parler. Because, as you know, I can't be on Twitter anymore. But back to what I was saying. Kim says the new Speaker of Parliament is giving Bercow a run for his money by not allowing the debate. Yes, the debate on Wednesday has been cancelled. Kim, you're quite right. However, it's quite likely that there will be further moves in the next 48 hours by Boris Johnson in this one here. I mean, Boris... I don't know what you guys think, but I think Boris is a lame duck prime minister. He's mishandled this issue enormously. And it turns out that he's got a team of lightweights around him. And so, Boris is not going to, in my opinion, be there for that much longer. There are a few things that come out that seem okay. I mean, appointing the likes of the for the Director General of the BBC, to have what's his name, Charles Moore. Sir, is that Lord Moore? Lord Charles Moore to be DG of the BBC would be hilarious, on the basis that Charles Moore has been a long-time critic of the BBC. In fact, I remember having dinner with Charles Moore and his sidekick, a certain chap called Michael Gove, some many years ago, actually. And Charles is one of the good guys. And if he became DG of the BBC, that would be hilarious. And also, by the way, having Paul Dacre become the chairman of Ofcom would be similarly hilarious. So there's hi, Tony. Nice to see you on the stream. So yeah, Tony's given me his correct title, Lord Moore of Etchingham. What a great name. So the Paul Dacre and Charles Moore, those are pretty good, would be pretty inspirational appointments. But by and large, I think Boris has lost run of the whole issue. He looks like a weak prime minister, and that's because he is a weak prime minister. And you will have noticed that in the latest opinion poll, such as they are worth, forensic Keir Starmer has gone ahead of him, 42% versus 39%. Now, don't get too excited about that, because it's only an opinion poll, one-off. However, it does suggest that Boris is losing the affection of the public. And once his colleagues see that, he will find that he loses the affection of his colleagues, because politics is a dog-eat-dog world. And if they sense weakness, they strike. So I feel that the problem about, I mean, Jeff says he's worried they'll sell out Brexit under the cover of this virus scam. Entirely possible, of course. We simply can't be sure what they what they're likely to do over Brexit. We'll find out most definitely in the next 2 weeks, and I'm sure we'll have a special live stream on it. Tony points out, it's always good to know these little details, isn't it? Etchingham is a tiny village near Battle, which is where Charles Moore resides. I can remember driving past Battle. It's a lovely spot down there on the south coast. Chris says, are you going for a slot on Andrew Neil's new GB News? I think, Chris, I would be as unwelcome on GB News as I am on the rest of the legacy media. I'm afraid I am a man out of time, and I'm sure you'll get the reference to that one, Chris, given your Costello pedigree. And Ozzy says a really good point here. Uni would have to pay private companies rent to cover empty rooms. Absolutely. And this is a point I think Rebecca will amplify when she speaks with us next. That you have to understand, universities are now money-making rackets. They just are. It pains me to say this, but it's true. And actually, they're money-making, Marxist-inducing, parasitical institutions. That's what I feel about universities, or certainly the overwhelming majority of them. And I would like to, I'd like to see major change in that. Ajit says, what do you think about India's Prime Minister, Mr. Modi? Huge fan, Ajit, of Prime Minister Modi. Prime Minister Modi and President Trump are a few of the few leaders in the world that I actually respect. I unfortunately have lost respect for Boris Johnson. I have a huge respect for Trump. And actually, talking of which, by the way, I hope you'll all be watching or tuning in to the first debate in the States tomorrow night between President Trump and slow Joe Biden. Now, assuming Joe Biden wakens up in time, how they can actually, rouse him to actually turn up for the event, I hope Trump absolutely monsters him on live, despite the fact that obviously the host will be against him, the questions will be against him, but I still have every confidence in President Trump. So President Trump, I support, and Prime Minister Modi, I 100% support. In fact, I support there's other people around the world I support. I broadly support Prime Minister Netanyahu in Israel, for example. So there are some that I support, but many that I don't support, and I do have my reasons. So it's not just irrational. I don't like globalists. I don't like those who suck up to China. I don't like those who indulge terrorism. I don't like those who won't respect the nation state. Those are the people I don't like. And if they are prime ministers or presidents, then I don't like them. And that's kind of where I stand in these matters. But I'm always very keen to align myself, and have done, with people like Prime Minister Modi. So I hope, Ajit, that answers your question. Kim says Joe's medication has been up during the last few weeks. Yeah, but having said that, Kim, you may recall he stated the other day that he was 180 years old. Did you hear him say that? He actually said it seriously. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't a slip of the tongue. But I'm afraid Slow Joe's early onset dementia is taking a toll, and that's sad. And I really wish he wasn't the Democrat candidate. But they believe if they push Slow Joe in, and after 6 months or a year he bails out, why, the US will have its first female president, Kamala Harris. And on that basis alone, given that she's a regressive from the left, that's every good reason to. I'm reading some of your comments here that about Biden, Pearl Biden. But I mean, he is essentially a love puppet. But the forces behind him are malevolent, and that's why it's really important that President Trump wins. And I said this in another broadcast I did recently on a different platform. It's not just for the sake of the United States. It's for the sake of the UK. It's for the sake of India. It's for the sake of Australia. It's for the sake of Canada. It's for the sake of the free Anglosphere world and leading countries like India, that we don't get Biden in. Biden, I mean, Ozzy says Biden ain't making the 4th of November. He will get ill. I don't know about that, Ozzy. I think he is probably going to be sufficiently medicated. They'll get him to the 4th of November. But given his his health issues, it's very unlikely that he would be in the White Office for very long. So fundamentally, I think we have to be very concerned about a President Harris who'd be in the White House and yet would never have been elected to the White House. She's in the wings, the people behind her are in the wings, and they've got this poor, shambling, incoherent apologists in the form of Joe Biden pretending that he's a sensible guy. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens in the first debate. I'm certainly going to be watching it, regardless of what time it's on it. I do think it's key for the whole of the civilized world that President Trump wins. I have every expectation he will win, by the way. All those doomsters in the media who are talking up Biden's chances. Yeah, just like in 2016, you guys all talked up Hillary's chances. Tell me, how did that end? And just one more thing, actually, before I go. Today, the media has been talking about Trump, my taxes. He doesn't pay taxes. This is so laughable. They tried this story back in 2016. Do you remember? How did that work out for them? And here, as we approach October, they've now trotted out the same cliches, and it's got no traction outside the salons of the left-wing media, the fake news media. And so I think this reeks of desperation. Trump is presiding over a recovering, here's a question I've got, a recovering economy, and I think he should do well. Hang on, someone brings up. Sorry, just wanted to bring this one up. What do you think of the police not having to download the app before you go, please? I didn't know the police had to download the app. I sure as hell won't be downloading the app. I don't see any reason why I would want to download the app until such times as the government has demonstrated that it's dealt effectively with the false positive issue. And I think that will be round about the 12th of Never. So I'm not downloading the app. Each one has been, everyone has to make that decision for themselves. Chris says, Katie Hopkins is in America and is convinced Trump is winning. Yes, she is. Katie's on one-woman barn-storming tour over in the States, for those of you who follow her on Parler, and of course you should do. I think that there's no doubt in my mind. They're gonna, yes, the non-taxes. Tony, I made the same point today. They're gonna talk about not the Trump. He doesn't pay his taxes. Then they're going to talk about Russians. Then they'll talk about sleazy activity in hotel bedrooms. In other words, they're going to just keep repeating the same things, the same tropes they've been pushing out over the last 3 or 4 years. And none of it's going to stick. And the reality is, the thing that's probably done the most for Trump is the riots. The BLM riots have, I believe, convinced a lot of swing voters in some of the most important swing states that if you don't want to have your city burnt down, you've got to vote for the rule of law. And the rule of law is the president. And that's why President Trump, I believe, one big reason why he will prevail. Now, mark my words, the media don't want to talk about the riots or mainly peaceful protests, as they refer to arson, looting, and murder. But outside of the salons of the, as I say, of the media, you're going to find that ordinary Americans realize that we just can't be having this. That's why gun ownership has rocketed over the summer. Basically, a lot of middle America sees that the only way to protect itself in some of these areas is if you've got a gun. And that's why gun ownership has absolutely rocketed. So someone says, Ozzy says, oh, well, Tilly says, Trump will win, in God we trust. Well, I believe Trump will, and in God we do trust. David says the app is the start of a UK version of the Chinese social credit. Well, actually, David, that's a very good point, and that's just a topic we can explore in a further stream. I think that this whole conditioning us all is something that we do have to be very wary about. Tony says Trump will win, and then the Democrat cities will go bananas. A lot of unrest will follow. You're right, Tony. I believe, and I'm sure you've heard this from others, but it's also my belief that on November the 3rd, Trump will win easily, but then you're going to have the mail-in ballots to be counted. And what the Democrats will do is Joe Biden will not concede defeat on November the 3rd, even though it will be clear that Trump has beaten him at the polls, because he will say that, but we've now got to count on all those millions of Biden mail-in votes. So you're going to have, I believe, as Tony points out, a lot of unrest as the Democrats agitate to claim that they've won the White House, even though they've lost the election on the night. And this is where mail-in votes is so crucial. The levels of fraud are eye-watering. And this is a strategy which I believe the Democrats have in play. Joe Biden will not concede defeat on November the 3rd. On November the 4th, 5th, 6th, they will try to gerrymander the mail-in votes, and that's how they plan to. Oh yes, Chris has got to murder my love is a crime. Will you still love a man out of time? Well, it looks like some of you do anyway. You know, my exile from Twitter has not been my death on social media. So I'm glad that some of you folks want to stick with me in these new environments as I build. It's actually quite encouraging. Over on Facebook, if you follow Alt News Media on Facebook, you get a lot of content from me going out on that. And our numbers have tripled, I think, in the past week or so. So really good traction on Alt News Media Facebook, and of course on YouTube as well. And if you can get as many people to subscribe to my own David Vance YouTube channel, that'll be great. There will be a totally brand new David Vance channel web platform coming as well. Ajit says he saw my interview with Major Gaurav Arya. Yes, and also with Arif as well, my good friends. I'm very lucky to know some of the best people I know are Indian people. And why do I say that? Because they're patriotic. They're not scared of the Chinese Communist Party. They're not scared of their country, of standing up for their country. This is admirable. This is what we need in the UK as well. In the States, we've seen Trump playing the Make America Great Again, and currently Keep America Great. And we've seen this in India with Prime Minister Modi making India great again. Well, I want to see the United Kingdom being made great again. And this shambling apology for a government that seeks to lock us down, keep our kids basically interned at university, and wreck our economy is not something that that I recognise. Friends of Katie Hopkins says, will Rebecca be back soon? Yes, indeed. I can reveal Rebecca will be back very soon. And I look forward to welcoming her. And I hope you'll all join us. And that will most likely be next week, I would imagine. So, and Chris says, but Twitter said you were racist. Yeah, they did, didn't they? Twitter, a home of pedophilia, of porn, of all kinds of degeneracy. They called me a racist. Well, honestly, I mean, really, that's the least thing that would concern me. But it does speak for the values of Twitter. And I have to say, for those folks who are on Parler, I find Parler a much nicer environment to be in. I very rarely see bad, hardly ever see anything that's really bad. So I like Parler because it's a pleasant environment. Yes, it's not as big as environment as Twitter. I get all of that, but just the people you meet and they talk to you and engage with me. I'm getting more engagement on Parler than I ever got on Twitter. So I've got, 44,000 followers in Parler, and I'm getting more engagement than I got with 172,000 on Twitter. Now, why might that be? Do you think it's possible that Twitter suppresses conservative voices? Before banning them, of course. Do you think that's a possibility? Of course it is. Tony makes a thanks, Tony, for your kind comment. We make a great Dream Stream team. Well, we enjoy it, and as I say, the last few weeks have been a bit difficult. Obviously, the bit of the fallout from Twitter needed to pass before things reassert themselves. But I'm very, very pleased with how things are going. Really pleased with the traction I'm getting all over the place. And very good to see so many of you people. It's ultimately you people watching this, listening this. You're the people that I do this for. It's all about you. I'm fundamentally just a conduit for thoughts which I believe many of you have. And I can hopefully give expression to those and provide you with proper discussion and thoughtful debate. That's all I've ever wanted to do, you know, and it's so to be called a racist for seeking thoughtful debate. Maybe, Chris, I need to do a special on Marcus Rashford, the inside story. Maybe I need to do that one sometime, but maybe not just for the time being, because it bores me to have to go back over things. I've already made it clear where I stand in these things. So look, that's pretty much it from me. So look, hope you've enjoyed being on the podcast tonight, and the video streams will return. Just make sure, as I say, that you're following Alt News Media on Facebook and YouTube, following me, David Vance, over on YouTube. And Chris says, I've still got £5 on my Superhard account. Well, as I say, unfortunately about that one, Chris, you can't give it to me. Maybe I'll get Rebecca to do a what's it. But I mean, the thing is that Twitter treated me so abominably, even over the Superhard accounts. I didn't really get any money from it. You know, the corruption of some of the big tech from Silicon Valley is just beyond words. And, you know, Someone's, I like your little pop-up live streams. Well, I'm glad. Thank you, Andrew, for this here. So some of these will be these little pop-up ones. There's others. I'm doing other little videos as well, short 2-3 minute videos. I'll push those out as well. Put them probably all out on YouTube and Facebook and Parler and Dailymotion and on other platforms I'm looking at as well. So that's what I'm trying to do. So hey, look. Thank you. Oh, I've got another. What didn't want to go. Hi, Rajiv. Thank you very much for your kind words. As I say, Indian people are indeed amongst the best of us. Isn't it funny, by the way, that Twitter defamed me as a racist, when in fact, as you can see, even in this stream, I've got loads of Indian friends. I've got Baluchistani friends. I've got Biafra Nigbu friends. I've got so many people. I don't judge anyone by their race. I judge everybody by their character and by their words and their behavior. So that's the way it is with me, folks. I think that's a good way to live your life. Try and be decent to other people and be sensible. That's how I see things. But anyway, my time is up here tonight. Thank you for being with me. Thanks very much for listening. And I hope to catch up with you folks real soon. In the meantime, be good. And I was going to say stay safe, but actually I'm sick of people saying stay safe. And the reason for that is stay safe from what? An arrogant government? Maybe that's something to stay safe from. But anyway, in the meantime, Harry, Tony, Chris, Andrew, all of you guys who have been on Aussie, everyone else, thanks for being here, and catch you all real soon. Au revoir, auf Wiedersehen, and goodbye.